freedom in America is taken to new highs or lows. You're watching Beyond the Trailers review of The Purge.
This is your emergency broadcast system announcing the commencement of the annual Purge. At the siren, all emergency services will be suspended for 12 hours. Your government thanks you for your participation.
Help me! Someone, please, help me! I just need to get somewhere safe. Does anybody hear me?
Let's go! This way!
Charlie!
This way, hurry!
Last week, rock star Adam Levine made headlines when, upset that two of his contestants on The Voice were voted off by viewers, muttered, "I hate this country," into his microphone, which he didn't know was live at the time. The debate quickly turned to the definition of free speech in America, with some arguing that the First Amendment includes a free pass for being judged for said comments, while others countered that they too had the freedom of speech to retaliate. Bottom line, though, is that clearly there are a lot of angry people out there, and the anonymity of the internet seems to whip them into a frenzy. With that in mind, it's plausible that sometime in the future, in order to pacify its citizens, the United States government would extend that anonymity to the real world, at least for 12 hours. That's the setup for The Purge, a film that explores a world where all crime is legal for one night a year, through the eyes of a typical suburban family. This family, headed up by Sinister's Ethan Hawke and Game of Thrones' Lena Headey, bunkers down for the night in their home, accepting of the Purge as they can simply sit it out and then enjoy the utopia it affords them and the rest of the country. But this movie is about one of those nights where this family finds itself forced to participate, as a black man winds up on their doorstep, begging them to save him from a group of people who've selected him as their annual prey. That wrinkle has irked some audiences, who point out that once again the nice white family is perfectly fine until a black person shows up and of course brings danger with them. Indeed, diversity in Hollywood requires a deft touch, and even still can sometimes backfire. Then again, The Purge is taking a risk by including such strong social commentary in the first place. New territory for producers Michael Bay and Jason Blum, the horror guru behind the Paranormal Activity franchise Insidious and Dark Skies. Do audiences go to horror movies to think, or are they just interested in purging their own need for gore and violence? And if it's the latter, is it responsible for Hollywood to indulge and encourage such a need, which seems to get more and more insatiable with films like Saw, Hostel, and the recent Evil Dead remake? Either way, one has to admire the excellent high-concept work being done here, which is rare for the horror genre. I have to say that The Purge is one of the scariest and most disturbing films I've ever seen. Not so much because of the gore or the high body count. It has those things to some degree, but because it was just so frighteningly, potentially real. I have not seen this level of social commentary in a horror film or a genre film, perhaps maybe ever. I mean, you see Judge Dredd in the Hunger Games trying to really kind of have the same kind of message about that 1% versus the 99% and violence coming into play. But I've never seen it dealt with, and perhaps because this Dredd had an R rating, but still, I mean, I think that was more that didn't have the strong social commentary. This was almost like a horror movie written by Time Magazine or Vanity Fair. I mean, it was very intellectual. The person I think really has a good grip on some of the problems that America is facing right now, and the mood of the country. The fact that I could see this maybe being a reality, and to think, because there's a lot of hate out there, and to think that to have someone kind of give it an outlet and to give someone the go-ahead to act on that hate was really terrifying. So I actually haven't decided yet personally if this movie is maybe irresponsible in some ways to have made, but I still thought it was very well made. One of the best things about it is it's very well cast. Ethan Hawke, great job. I mean, I interviewed him at the Tribeca Film Festival before midnight, and he said he made this film because he had so much fun with Sinister and had done well. I didn't see Sinister, but some people were mixed on that. But he's good in the horror genre. He's really good here. And he has one fight scene, so well done. He does a great job. It's very well edited, great use of music. The whole theater I was in, everyone was just, really, they're gripping their seats. It was it was great, really nicely done. But also Lena Headey did a really nice job. I thought that the child actors were great. I thought, the teenage daughter role was kind of not so great, kind of typical and a little bit, but I mean, it's a horror film. It did with that role what horror films, I guess, need to do to satisfy their core fan base. But by the way, I'm coming to this as someone who is not a big horror fan. So keep that in mind. Like, this is a movie I would not have seen on my own because I just don't find it entertaining to watch that kind of stuff. But I will say, though, that this is the second Jason Blum film that I've watched this month and been pleasantly surprised. Not only did I enjoy this very much, but I really liked Dark Skies, by the way. So Dark Skies is actually available for rental right now. I highly recommend Dark Skies. Very good. And that's not really a gory movie at all. So I do appreciate, this is, when I say, even this movie is not that gory. I think it's just the idea of the violence is so disturbing. I'm, as someone who doesn't like the Saw hostile trend, hats off to Jason Blum for being able to compete so well in this arena. He's the producer of these films, to be able to compete so well in this arena without going down that road and kind of having a fallback to the great horror films of like the 70s and stuff like that. I like, for instance, The Shining, I think is perhaps one of my favorite horror films. But back to The Purge. So fantastic acting across the board. Really well done. Very well-made film. And you know what? The world building here was fantastic. I would actually compare it to the world building in another Ethan Hawke film. He picks good world building films. Daybreakers, which was another nice little gem. So the world building here was done quite well. So much so that they did such a great job building it up at the beginning of the film that I'd say the last third just kind of like lets it go with the action. And I don't know if that deflates the film a little bit. I don't think this is going to be like one of those, this isn't like The Exorcist or The Shining, as I just said. This isn't one of those iconic films, but it's a very well done film. And you know what? It might become so, because it depends if the media picks up on the strong social commentary here. I would be interested in that, because that could really elevate this film to a different level if people see that. If it goes unnoticed, it'll just be something that maybe fans talk about at dinner after seeing the movie. But great world building, very well done. And, as I said, really, it was a really interesting film, really good. Very scary, really nicely done. So, but if you're someone who doesn't like horror films, I'm not like, oh, you should go and see this no matter what. But this is a film that if you're into horror films, I think you should definitely see it. If you're on the fence, I think it's worth seeing. And I think on rental, I think it's worth giving it a shot. If you're sitting at home, like I did with Dark Skies, I was like, I'm not really into horror movies, but I've watched everything else on here. I'm going to try it, and I was just so happily surprised. So it actually, I think Dark Skies and The Purge maybe they're on the same level actually. So I really enjoyed The Purge, and it caught me off guard that I did like it because, as I said, not a horror fan. So that's my review of The Purge. If you've seen the film, be sure to share your thoughts down below. And as always, thank you for coming to Beyond the Trailer for the latest news, trailer reviews, trailers, and movie reviews like this. Thanks for watching. Bye.